2019, the Philippines' debt to GDP ratio is 40%, meaning the country is capable of paying its debts based on its GDP that year. However, this doesn't make the country from its debt to other countries and international lending organizations. The Philippines' GDP has dropped by 16.9% in the second quarter of 2020 and 11.5% in the third quarter. This point shows how the pandemic affected the overall GDP of the country. The unemployment rate increased drastically in April by 17.8%, 10% in July, and 8.5% in October 2020, and a massive decrease in the labor force participation rate was seen also in 2020. The mostly affected industries by the pandemic are those in food or restaurant sector. Suppliers or the backward linkages are affected, and the distributors or the forward linkages are also heavily affected by the lockdowns caused by the pandemic. This forced the business owner in this sector to close their business. However, the pandemic stirred up more people to work in BPO industries and other online opportunities. In the education sector, the system of learning is also affected, which results the students to undergo through a remote learning setup. Although this may be convenient to some students and parents, other people are affected, especially those who are not fortunate enough to avail online services that are needed in a remote learning setup. Public transportation sector is also affected by the pandemic. During the heavy lockdowns, people who rely their income through public transportation felt the heavy cost of the pandemic. This factor affects the human capital investment, which is an essential key of our future growth. Overseas Filipino workers are also affected by the pandemic. Some of the OFWs are forced to go home due to unemployment. Tourism industry is also affected as different countries and local towns, cities, and or communities close their borders to help in stopping the spread of the virus. Delivery services boomed during the pandemic as more people tend to use internet and similar devices or gadgets to buy the things that they need. Government aids were insufficient to provide the need of all the families during the whole course of the pandemic. Financial or economic aids were slashed from the proposed 2021 budget that may trigger a more drastic recession in the country. It could cause a domino effect, which will lead to hunger or worse, famine in the country. The only hope that we have according to the event is the vaccine. If this will be effective, it could turn things back to almost normal, but not normal. The government should execute a distribution and procurement of these vaccines well since the economy of the country lies in it. 2020 has been a hell of a ride, especially when it comes to the economy. However, life goes on and everyone must continue to provide for themselves and their families. When an opportunity closes, another one opens.